All right, let's get it started. So, welcome everyone. Appreciate you guys for being here. We got a bunch of people logging on. We got some people still coming in. So excited about our webinar today and about our special guest. Before we get started, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Alex Nahle. I'm a real estate broker with Compass, and I run a team of agents locally out of the Pasadena and La Cañada office. Our niche is working with real estate investors nationwide in different capacities, to some as consultants, others by finding deals and negotiating deals. We also do partnership, JV opportunities, or help newer and aspiring investors enter the investing space. That's something we're extremely passionate about. So if we can be of service to you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out. I also want to share a little bit before, we introduce Miggle. I want to share a little bit about our events that we host. We host 4 events on a monthly basis, 2 in person, 2 online like this one. The in-person events are usually on a Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. One of them is in Pasadena, California. The other one is in Studio City, California. Our upcoming in-person event is in Studio City. It's going to be next Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. at the Laurel Tavern. So if any of you are in the LA area, please drop by. We'd love to meet you in person. Scan the QR code that's up on the screen. This way, one, to either register for an upcoming event or to be notified of any future events. And our virtual events are usually on a Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So this is one of them today. So again, just scan the QR code. This way you're notified of any upcoming event. I'd also appreciate your support if you can please help us out by visiting our YouTube channel. Okay. You can go to alexnaleonvideo.com, check out our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to it. Help us grow our YouTube channel. You can check out any previous videos or watch previous podcast episodes. We had Miggle on there in the past, so check out that episode as well. We'd appreciate your support there. I'm going to drop the link to our YouTube channel in just a moment here. So yeah, we would love the love and support if you can do that. Also, we have Alyssa from my team here. Alyssa, you want to jump on and say hello, introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Alyssa Denson. I am a real estate agent here in Los Angeles. I work with Alex and we work with investors. We also wholesale properties. I've been wholesaling since about 2023. And so that has been my main focus. I really enjoy it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and we would love to work with you.
Excellent. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest for today, Miggle from Family Legacy Funding. He's an expert in creative financing and helping his clients obtain 0% financing to invest in their business. So, Miggle, welcome
Do
to
it.
the
Right on,
webinar,
man.
man.
Dude, thanks so much for having me again. Nice to meet everybody. If it's not too much trouble, I'd love to be able to see all your guys' beautiful faces, just get some engagement in here as well. Because as much as I'm going to be educating you guys on this creative financing strategy, specifically using 0% business credit, I'm going to be asking you guys questions as well. Feel free to ask me questions. But yeah, I guess before I get started, I imagine everyone here is either some way, shape, or form already doing something real estate related, or they have their eyes sets on it and they're looking to do it here in the near future. But if you guys want in the chat, go ahead. If let us know if you're new to investing in real estate. I think it's super important. One, it's great that you guys are here, just because you're going to be able to learn not just from me, but also from everybody else. I'm really glad that Alex told everyone to just let you guys know what location you're at and what you guys do, because it's truly like network is your net worth. If you don't know how to do something, then leverage the knowledge of others. Like, it's the biggest key here to help you guys succeed. Awesome. So Alfredo, you're already in it, so that's awesome. So you already got a couple doors. Well, cool, guys. So the whole topic of today is I'm going to be covering over creative financing, specifically with 0% interest funding. I feel like a lot of times when people hear about creative financing, they might be thinking of something like sub 2. You could definitely use this financing strategy in combination with this, but specifically, we're going to be talking about how to get into these deals with as little to none of your own money out of pocket by leveraging 0% interest business credit cards. So, jumping right into it, a little bit about me. I've been studying the 0% funding game coming on almost 5 years, actually 5 years now that it's 2025. I've raised over 300K at no interest just for myself, and collectively through the clients we've worked with, easily, this is probably 5 million by now because we haven't updated this. But yeah, a minimum of at least 5 million in funding through all the clients we've worked with. And by learning how to raise this capital, I was able to invest this into 7 different Airbnb arbitrage deals, and then I was able to work on 8 fix and flips. So I feel like a big problem with a lot of investors, especially if you guys are starting out, is right, your goal is to get into real estate. You guys want to start making some income, whether it's flipping or wholesaling or renting. However, any business, it's gonna require capital, right? So a lot of people, if you're just starting out, a lot of people don't have that money just sitting around, especially when we're talking about real estate. If you're looking for a down payment on a home, especially here in California, good luck with like 20K or something like that. You're not getting it, right? So rather than, trying to save 50K through your job, right, which would probably take you, months or even years, this strategy I'm about to walk you guys through will help you guys get into deals today. And then the whole goal is to use this funding, invest into an asset, have the asset pay itself back so you can pay back the cards. And now you just have the banks essentially buy you this property or whatever business investment you're making, basically free. So here's kind of the journey I want to walk you guys through. Why 0% funding, the different funding methods most people are using, how to actually apply for the 0% funding, and going through some case studies. And then I'll walk you guys through what the process actually looks like so that you guys actually have actionable steps that you can take away today. And if anything on here, like I said, doesn't make sense, feel free to drop the questions in the chat, and I'm more than happy to answer. But as far as business credit, so a lot of people, they'll think, why wouldn't I just use my savings? Why would I take out debt to get into this asset? So the reason here is because, one, this is the cheapest money you guys are ever going to get. You can't beat 0%. There's nothing else out there. The only caveat I do want to preface this, it's not 0% forever. A lot of people ask, like, why would the banks give 0% business credit? That doesn't really make any sense. And the reason being is it's only an introductory rate. So it's usually 12 to 18 months. However, there are ways to extend those 0% terms that I'll get into here in a bit. But the whole idea, again, is invest into an asset that's going to be able to ROI itself within a couple years. So this is really great for people who are doing like something like wholesaling, fix and flips, or BRRRR. Buy and holds are a little, there's definitely, you got to calculate that a little bit more, but it does work if you have the right strategy. So again, this is the cheapest money you guys are going to get. Many banks offer multiple 0% interest business credit cards. So Chase alone, they have 2 0% cards. We're typically getting 50K and up per card. So like, I want you guys to start like imagining this, if you're in a place where you've been wanting to invest, or maybe you already have a couple deals and you're like, dang, I really want to speed up this process, but I can't because I don't have the money. This is the answer, because we could easily rip out 100K. If you had 100K, like literally ask yourself, like, what would that do for me in my business? Like, how much more would my life change if I had that kind of capital? That's going to get you into like at least one deal. And that one deal could completely change your whole trajectory financially. So there's a lot of banks, they offer multiple 0% cards. So we have tons of options. The other thing too is if you have multiple LLCs, you could apply for the same card more than once. So using this Chase example, right? Let's say we got 100K at no interest between the 2 cards. You invested it into a flip. A year later, you got the ROI, paid it back, and now you have your profit and the property, right? Once we pay back that original card, if you have a second LLC, we could go ahead and apply for the same card again. So I do want to preface that too. I don't know how many times you could just keep doing it. I don't want to tell you guys, hey, go open 10 LLCs and you get infinite funding. I'm sure the banks will eventually put a halt on it. But I've done this for 2, 3 LLCs applying for the same card and no problem at all. The other big thing too is I mentioned earlier, usually these cards are 12 months, so consider it kind of like a short-term loan. But like I said, you can extend these 0% terms for multiple years by refinancing the card onto another 0% card. So if we borrowed 100K with Chase, you expected to ROI within a year. Let's say it ends up taking 2 years, then no worries. We could open up another 0% card, do a balance transfer. Now you just bought yourself an extra 2 years, 3 years, 4 years even sometimes to be able to make your money back. And a big thing that I believe is the more time with 0% business credit, the less risk you have because you have more time to get that ROI. The other key thing here too is sometimes people will try to fund their business expenses using a 0% personal credit card. The only problem with that is if you max out personal credit, it will negatively impact your credit score and it's going to stop you from being able to get more funding if you need it. That's not the case with business credit cards. The banks want you to max it out. And the reason being is they know it's going towards an asset that's going to pay itself off versus like a personal credit card. If you're just buying shoes, they're like, okay, if they're maxing out their credit cards, buying shoes and a purse, like, all right, that's not going to look good for you. So again, this allows you to max them out without affecting your guys' personal credit score and utilization. Now, here are a couple different funding options that most of you guys have probably might have even used or at least heard of, but the motto I kind of live off of is the more funding options you guys have, the more opportunity, right? I believe with business, a lot of your problems could be solved with money, like either hire the right partner or coach, being able to have more money for more down payments, more labor and material, whatever it is. So the more access to capital you have, the more opportunities you could have. Because I've been in this position too, and I've talked to multiple investors where, they spent 5 years or whatever saving. They put it into a deal. Now they're asset rich, but they're cash poor. And now there's newer opportunities where it's just like, holy crap, this property is, almost like a once in a lifetime deal, super undervalued. Like I need to be able to get this opportunity, but a lot of people can't because they just spent all their money into a different investment. So again, that just reinforces the idea, more funding options, more opportunity. So what a lot of people do in this industry, right? They'll take out high interest loans. That could be in the form of like a hard money lender. I guess real quick before I preface this, there's nothing wrong with using any of these four. In fact, I recommend using all of them, but the more tools you have, the better. With a hard money, right, you're paying 12 to 15% interest with 2 to 4 points. So right off the bat, you're losing, 12 to 19% just through the fees. So this isn't the worst case in the world, but if you're going hard money, they typically require 10 to 20% down. And if you don't have that cash, then, you can't do the deal. And what I've helped a lot of real estate investors do is we'll get that 10 to 20% using the 0% business credit, and then we'll fund the rest through the hard money lender. The second option is savings. I kind of already went through that. This is solid because you don't owe anything to anybody. But again, this is a very slow process for you guys to save. For the average person to be able to save 50 grand is probably going to take them, months or years at a time. So the other thing too is with savings, the whole time while you're saving, you're also keeping yourself out of the game. So the whole time you're saving, you could have been learning if you had funding to start investing today. So that's kind of the drawback there. The other thing too is liquidating other assets. So before I learned 0% business credit funding, I invested in Bitcoin when I was like 14. So that was like over 10 years ago. So like I still have it. Funny enough, I actually I bought that with a credit card. So, but now it's absolutely shot up. I've made a shit ton of money off of that. But before I learned about business credit, I was getting into e-commerce and it was like 25 grand, didn't know how to fund it. So I was like, okay, let me sell some Ethereum and some Bitcoin. And the drawback with this is I ended up trading one asset for the other. And later that year, the crypto literally shot up an additional 10 to 20K. And basically, I lost out on those capital gains as well because I had to trade one asset for the other. So the beauty of using 0% business credit is you could have your cake and eat it too. You could leave that asset, let it continue to appreciate, and then use the business credit to go get into that deal. And worst case scenario, if your investment that you use the 0% on doesn't work out, then you have these assets to pay it back. And at the same time, it still grew. So it's more money than you would have had if you just used savings. Lastly is equity. Personally, this is probably my least favorite, right? Like for me, if I'm putting my blood, sweat, and tears into a project, I don't like the idea of, giving up half of my business to somebody just because they provided the funding. Again, none of these are inherently bad, but I wouldn't just stick to one. I would use every single one of these just so you could open up more opportunity and also keep more of the business to yourself and not have to pay all these high interest loans, waste time, sell off assets, or give up equity in your business. Now, as far as the use case for real estate, so with a lot of clients that we work with, I mentioned it before, we'll use that as the down payment. So you're purchasing a house, you're putting 10% down, we get that through the business credit and then fund the rest through a conventional loan or a hard money lender. The other thing a lot of people like to use this for is renovation, labor, and material costs. So that's a huge one. We also use it for short-term holding costs like utility bills and property taxes, any sort of marketing expenses such as promoting the property for sale or rent, and again, creating more opportunities to close deals quickly by using credit as that short-term leverage. Now, the other big thing is this also keeps your personal credit safe while being able to still scale your portfolio. And then again, by having access to this business credit, it's creating more opportunity to fund multiple properties at the same time without those cash flow constraints. So I just kind of wanted to share just some use cases for some past clients I've worked with. This Ian literally got him 75K, and at the time he only had 3 units bringing 12K a month. He was doing Airbnb arbitrage, and after getting him the 75K, he was able to scale from 3 units to 9 and making 12K a month to 50K a month. So this is literally fuel on the flame, especially if you already have a system that's working and literally the only constraint is money. This could literally 3x where you guys are at, or even almost 5x your guys' revenue, just like Ian. I got my buddy Kyle 165K in funding within 6 weeks. And that allowed him, he basically used that for the 10 to 20% down on 3 different properties and then funded the rest through a hard money lender. And then this is an example for buy and holds. So we got them 40K. This was out in Indiana, so the properties over there are a lot cheaper. So 40K was able to get them something really nice. A big thing that I mentioned before is do not take out business credit if you don't have a solid strategy, right? A lot of people, when they think of debt, they're very scared of it. We're taught that, avoid debt at all costs. Now, a better mindset to have with that is everybody, like every big entrepreneur, they've built their empire by leveraging other people's money, OPM. Like Jeff Bezos, he owns like 12% of his company, but he's still like the richest man in the world because he gave away equity and was able to raise capital. And that's how he's been able to become the business mogul he is now. Obviously, none of us in the room are Jeff Bezos, but we could take those lessons and do it on a much smaller scale versus asking somebody for millions of dollars for equity. We could easily just get, 100K at no interest and keep all the equity for ourselves as well. So what I want to go over is just managing risk and exit strategy, because you don't want to have 100K, spend it, and not have any sort of plan on how to pay it back, because after that 12 to 18 months ends, that interest rate is going to go from 0 to a normal credit card rate of 20 to 25%. And that's the last thing we want to be doing is paying any interest at all. Number 1 is always have a clear plan to pay off the debt before the 0% interest period expires. In the world of real estate, if you're doing like a fix, like a BRRRR or even like a buy and hold, you have the option of doing like a cash out refi or HELOC to be able to pay back those cards. The other thing too is, I mentioned earlier, you can extend the 0% terms for
We lost Miggle.
multiple years. So I think I might have froze.
Yeah, you froze for a moment, but you're back now.
Okay, cool. So by the time we need to pay back the cards, if we're extending it, you're going to have enough equity in the home to do that cash out refi or HELOC to pay back the cards. The other option too is, if you're holding on to that property for multiple years, odds are it's appreciating. So again, you're going to be able to sell off the property, pay back the cards, and then keep a little bit to yourself, whatever that profit is. And then lastly is leverage other assets or savings. So what I always recommend to people is if you have savings, rather than just using that into the investment, you could always put that into some other investment, like a high yield savings account that's like basically guaranteed to appreciate like 5 to 10%, whatever it is. Keep that there, pull out the cash or pull out the 0% business credit, use that for the investment. And worst case scenario, if you can't pay out that business credit, you could use that savings that was in that high yield savings account to pay it back. And then you again still have that little bit of appreciation. So again, you're starting off with more money than you started with. Okay, awesome. So this is the 0% funding formula. This is something I've been studying for the last 5 years. If you guys are taking notes, this is the time right here. I'm going to be dropping tons of games, lots of actionable stuff for you guys, lots of golden nuggets. So here's how you guys actually qualify for 0% interest business credit card. So when it comes to the banks, if you were to put yourself in the underwriting team's shoes, and Miggle's coming up to you asking, "Hey, Alyssa, you're the underwriter over at Chase Bank. I'm looking for 100K at no interest." The two things you guys are going to care about most as the underwriter is, number one, do we think Miggle is a trustworthy borrower? And number two, do we think his business is attractive enough to lend to, or does it have potential to grow to where it needs to be, to where it looks attractive? So as far as being a trustworthy borrower, our process comes in is we do a custom credit analysis on all three bureaus to make sure your credit score and profile is optimized. We look at the business profile and make sure we're meeting each of the bank underwriting requirements and just checking off each of those boxes. So when we're walking into the doors, we look like a walking green flag and they want to give us money. The other big thing here is leveraging relationship managers rather than just applying online. And I'll go into a little bit more on what I mean in that in the next couple slides. But we do these 3 steps: analyze the credit, meet the bank underwriting requirements, leverage our connections, and that's how we get these high-level credit limit approvals. So as far as this goes, in order to look like a trustworthy borrower, the minimum is at least a 700, but we'd like to have you at a 720 credit score. If you're at a 700, you're still fundable, but you want to be 720 and above to have like the smoothest and highest limits possible. Now, what the credit profile needs to look like is you want to have at least 3 personal credit cards with an average 10K limit each. You want to have about 20% utilization or lower on each credit card. The reason being is if Tracy goes over to Chase and is like, "Hey, I need a 50K card," yet she only has one personal credit card with a $500 credit limit and it's maxed out, you're not going to look like the most trustworthy borrower, right? We don't want to have any negatives. If you do, we don't want them any recent ones within the last 2 years. You don't want to have any within the last 2 years. So if you do have some, but they're older, it's not the end of the world for you guys. You want to have an average credit age of 2 years, just because if you just started getting credit today, then there's not enough history to show the banks that you have a history of being trusted with money. So you want to have at least 2 years of average credit age. If you do not, there are websites, feel free, drop the word website down below and I'll send it to you guys. But if your average credit age isn't sitting here just yet, there are websites online where you can buy what's called an authorized user trade line. And basically, with an authorized user, you could also do this with a friend or family member, but if you don't have that, then this website allows you to purchase somebody else's credit card and get added as an authorized user. And the beauty of this is, if I were to add you as an authorized user to my like 20K Chase credit card with 10 years of limit or 10 years of age, you guys don't have access to the card, but you'll adopt all the positive benefits of that credit card onto your credit profile. And since that credit card has 10 years of age, that's going to help boost this up for you guys. The only caveat with that is if you are going to ask for family and friends for an authorized user, you just got to make sure it's got old age, 5 to 10 years plus. You want high limits. You want to make sure they're paying their balances off. You don't want them to be maxed out, and you don't want them to be late on those cards, just because just like you'll adopt all the positive things, if it's bad, you'll also adopt that as well. So just be careful on who you guys ask, and it's somebody you could trust. But when you do reach out to friends or family member, any friends or family members, you can just let them know, hey, this is just purely to help me build my credit. I won't have access to the card. I would really appreciate it. The other thing too is you don't want to have more than 3 hard inquiries within the last 6 months. You know, if you have a ton of inquiries, to the banks, in their eyes, it's just going to look like, oh man, this Miggle kid has 10 inquiries within the last 6 months. It looks like he's, funding hungry, crazy. So I don't want to give this guy funding. If you're in the situation where you have more than 3 hard inquiries, comment the word inquiry down below, and I will send you guys a free guide on how you guys could remove your hard inquiries from Experian literally within 24 hours. So drop the word inquiries down below, drop the word website if you guys want the authorized user website as well. So that's what, in the eyes, this is kind of the basics of what you want to look like before you reach out to the banks. Something I want to preface as well is looking like a trustworthy borrower and having an optimized credit score and profile. All that does is just get your foot in the door with the banks to at least consider you. Without having knowledge of what their underwriting teams are looking for, how to apply, you could still get denied or get low limits. I had a client who had an 845 credit score, which is literally five points away from a perfect credit score, and she only got approved for 5K at Amex. And again, that's just goes to show you guys, just because you have a really good credit doesn't guarantee you're going to get these high limits. The last thing we want to do is, oh, I have an 800 credit score, let me go apply for 10 cards from all these banks and get these low limits, because a lot of these banks, they have multiple 0% cards, but if you're reaching out to them, apply, and you don't really know what you're doing, and you only get approved for 5K, and then you try to apply for another card with them shortly after, odds are they're going to give you another limit somewhere around that range. Versus if we come into the doors, coming in hot, get approved for a 50K card, next card's going to be around that range, if not higher. All right, so this is another key thing here is how do we actually show the banks that your business is attractive enough to lend to and has potential? So first thing here is we already know what each bank's underwriting requirements. Like I said, we're checking off each of those requirements to make you look as a strong enough business as possible. We already know the exact scripts of what the banks want to hear from the people who are trying to borrow. A lot of times people might describe their business in a way where it makes it look a lot more higher risk, especially in the way they set up the LLC. There's this thing called an NAICS code. So that code determines your level of risk depending on the industry you work in. So if you're a high risk business, let's say like if your business says like Miggle's investment financial capital, like the word investing, financial, and capital, when banks hear that, that sounds risky because it sounds like, oh, this is a company that takes other people's money, invests it in other things, and they don't want to hear that because it sounds very high risk to them. So we want to be able to make sure we're portraying ourselves in the best light. So if you are doing something sort of like that, I always like to fall back and letting the banks know that I'm doing something revolving around consultations. Yeah, consulting is a very low risk business. A lot of businesses in some shape or form really do some level of consulting. So a lot of us can portray our business as that. So when you're reaching out to the banks, let them know you're doing something low risk like consulting, because there's very low overhead and a lot of upside to that. So they want to give money to businesses that are like that. So that all goes into the scripts. And then the other big thing is knowing how to fill out the applications properly to make yourself shine as bright as possible. Because a lot of these banks, how they make their decision is one, off the creditworthiness, meeting these underwriting requirements, and number 3, the potential of the business. So estimated incomes and revenues, right? So we know what they're looking for and how to fill out those applications. Lastly, this is probably this is the thing that probably tips the scale the most in your guys' favor if you have access to this, is we apply through what's called a senior level VP relationship manager. And what most people are doing when they apply is they just go online and fill out an application straight off their website. And the problem with that is the banks don't know who Chris is if he's just applying online. They don't know what his goals are, his background, his history, what he does. So your application just goes through an algorithm, and typically people get denied or get those lower limits. And again, since these banks have multiple cards, we want to make sure the first card is optimized so it sets the tone for the next cards applying to keep getting those high limits. So by going through these senior level VP relationship managers, basically they have a lot of influence on the underwriting process. And when you're working with them and working with us, they're basically going to be connecting with the underwriting team and basically letting them know, hey, Chris came in through Miggle. He sent us a lot of business. All the people he sends us are qualified. Let's give him the highest limits possible. And the way these relationship managers work is they actually get paid a commission from the banks based off of how much you guys get approved for. So it's in their best interest to help you get the maximum funding. However, the only way to work with them is you need to already know what the underwriting requirements are, how to talk to them, and have somebody like us be able to connect you directly to them. But to sum all that up, all you need to look like a trustworthy borrower is this optimized credit score, an optimized credit profile. Again, all that does is get your foot in the door with the banks to at least be considered. But this is the big game changer, is knowing which boxes to check off for the requirements, knowing how to talk to them, knowing how to fill out the applications, and then most importantly, going through these relationship managers so they could represent you and get you the maximum funding through the underwriting team. And that's how we get these high application approvals. Yeah, guys, that was a lot of information. I'm a little out of breath, so thank you guys for being patient with me. I do want to open up the floor for any Q&A. Again, for anyone who is interested, if you guys aren't meeting these requirements yet, let's say you don't have enough personal credit cards, comment the word credit cards down below, and I'll send you guys the list of the best cards with the best banks to have relationships with early on. If you guys do have any negatives on your credit, comment the word repair, and I could get you connected to one of my partners who's really good at getting negative items removed. If you guys don't have the right credit age just yet, there are websites. So comment the word website and I'll send that to you guys as well. And then for people, this one's a really fun one. I love sending this one for the inquiry removal because this is the one where you could apply it literally today and immediately see your results by tomorrow. If you guys have too many hard inquiries, comment inquiry down below and I will send you guys all the absolutely free. But yeah, that's basically it, guys. Let's open up the floor for any questions.
This is awesome, man. You just shared a lot of nuggets with us today. Anybody has a question, drop it in the chat below. I mean, some people may not be ready to do this now. You just need to know that, sometimes everybody is at a different stage. You need to get ready, be prepared. Sometimes you have inquiries you need to remove, things you need to, fix on your credit so you can get to a point where you get approved. And the reason why Miggle came by to our event in Pasadena. He was on my podcast, so check out the podcast episode on our YouTube channel. But one of the main reasons he's here is one, he works with a lot of my clients, a lot of clients that I'm working with work with him, and there's proof in the pudding. And two, the strategies that he's sharing with you all, I personally use them. I invest in fix and flips and in the BRRRR strategy. And I use it all the time, especially on fix and flips. You purchase material. I know to some clients you provide them access to liquid as well. For me, I just mainly use it for purchasing material, 0% financing. It beats the high interest rates of the hard money loan. It also, I do get rehab funding with my hard money financing. However, I'd rather use a 0% interest credit card. Use that up, you sell the property, you pay off the card, then you're ready to use it again. So specifically, two of our credit cards are due to expire. The 0% is going to expire in February. We've already connected, I've talked to you about this already. We connected with the relationship manager. She already got us approved for two new cards. She rolled over some of the debt onto the new card. And now we have two cards. We have higher limits, and then we keep the ball rolling. So
Yes.
it's a phenomenal strategy, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, I actually when I spoke at your event, I started immediately working with some of your guys' clients in the community, and it feels so great, one, to just have a product and service that just freaking kills it. Because like the if everything's right and everything's optimized, like literally I worked with Carlos, literally within the first week got him 65K. Like that was freaking awesome because he was just like, I don't really know about this. And I was just like, dude, give me 2 weeks, got it to him in 1 week. So really awesome stuff. And yeah, like you said, with like the hard money lending, like this is such a great way to just get into more deals without using your own cash. And again, with like a hard money lender, you still need that 10 to 20% down. So don't sleep on being able to use the business credit. I
And
want
what's
to,
important to mention too is like, it's different for everybody, right? For someone, it may take a few days a week. Others, it may take longer. So, it's not magic. There's a
yeah,
process, there's a system to it. It's all about also, you mentioned a key word is relationships, right? We're in a relationship business, whether, you're
definitely.
in real estate, lending, or whatever the case may be. It's all about relationships, and having a good relationship with a bank is crucial, right?
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
don't think that it's going to be the same process for everybody. And you know what? Do your due diligence, because one strategy that works for one specific investor may not be the best one for you. So do your due diligence, and if it works for you, reach out to Miggle. I'm sure he can help you guys out. We have a couple questions in the chat. Tracy's asking, are you able to use credit card for a down payment? Is that always true? You can answer it. I want to chime in on that as well.
Absolutely. So I appreciate you asking that question because a lot of people are like, what the heck? How do I pay for this house on a credit card? Nobody's gonna let you do that. So yes, the short answer is yes, you can. We just have to be creative with it. So, right, with a credit card, yeah, obviously you can't buy a house with a credit card, but they will let you pay for it in cash, right? So the next question is, how do we pull the cash from the credit card to make it liquid? And typically the banks, what they want you to do is pay the cash advance fee, which you're looking at like 25 to 30%, which is like, what the hell? Like I'm already 30% in the hole and I haven't even started yet, right? So one of the ways that we do, or I'll actually give you guys a couple ways of doing it. Um, there's a do-it-yourself method. This is good if you're only needing like 10 to 20K. You'll just want to break up the payments, but you could just connect your credit card to a PayPal, send that to a friend or family member, and just have them wire it back. I believe the fee on that is like 3%. That's just the normal credit card fee. Anytime, if you guys didn't know, anytime you use a credit card, the banks charge a 3% fee. Usually the seller is the one that pays it. That's why you guys might not know about it. But in this case, you're going to pay that 3%. If you're doing a business or your friend has a business that is used to making large invoices, they could always send you an invoice and then you just put your credit card on that and then they send you back the money. So that's those are two kind of like do it yourself options. The other option is there are done for you liquidation companies where they just handle the whole process for you. It's super safe with at least the partner that I work with. We've been working with them for over a year now, haven't had any problems. But basically, what they do is, let's say we get you a 65K card, you want to liquidate the full thing, you don't want to have to break it up in payments with PayPal, then you go straight to them and they'll liquidate the whole thing for you. Usually it takes 7 to 14 business days. So just plan accordingly. It's not going to be an overnight thing. So they charge a 3% processing fee, but you can't forget about the typical 3% that the banks charge. So total 6%. I know a lot of you guys are like, oh crap, I don't want to pay 6%. But at the end of the day, if you're in a business that can't make a 6% return, then you guys are probably in the wrong investment. But the beauty of that is the money's secure, you'll get it straight cash, all in one lump sum, and that's how you guys are able to pull out the cash from the credit cards.
Yeah, I
Quick
mean,
question.
as you mentioned, there are fees to everything, right? Like for me, I mainly use a 0% for purchasing material, pay it off, it's a done deal. working with a client, one of our mutual clients right now, that he did exactly that for them, right? They're purchasing a home with me. They got access to the down payment, and exactly the way you explained it, and then there is a fee for that. So you got to just weigh the pros and cons and see what works best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And always like weigh your different options of like the different funding options. See on a numbers basis, is this going to be cheaper than what I could get elsewhere? And I could guarantee you there's nobody else out here offering, 0%, even with the fees that you're going to get anything less than that versus your typical other lenders or other options. But that was a really great
So be
question. Lacey. I
responsible.
appreciate you asking
Yeah.
that. Yeah, be responsible with it. Absolutely.
We
Um,
have another question in there. Also wanna,
I have a question.
you have a question. Who's that?
Yeah. So I know you guys are talking about credit cards, but is there any way to build a foundation based off like just putting in work? Or do you have to go about getting your credit right to go ahead and get the capital or the funds for it to go ahead and start?
Say more to that.
Just pretty much if I can just do the get my hands dirty and do the groundwork instead of having to build up my credit to then use the funds to then start.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Because I know you guys were talking about wholesaling, and I know there's somewhat of a process. I didn't really master it, but there's a process where you can just buy the contract, use the contract to then flip it, and then get a kind of finder's fee from it. But is there something like that that you guys kind of train or kind of
That's
show
a great
about?
question. That's a great question, Roger. Thanks for bringing it up. So it doesn't necessarily apply to like what Miggle is talking about now, but it is definitely something that's doable to answer you. If you want, we can connect offline, go over a little bit more in depth. There's different ways of doing it. One of them is like you said, wholesaling, getting the contract, and giving it to someone else. There's different ways, like Tracy mentioned, she's doing self-directed, right? She's got her LLC. That's a very brilliant way to do it. That's one thing that I talk to a lot of my clients
We
about.
love the self-directed
Yeah. A lot of
IRA.
people don't know about it. It's crazy, right? And then, like you said, Roger, there's, sweat equity. You put the time, the work into it. People like myself, we do partner up with others in different capacities, right? So if you have a specific skill set, you can find that investor that you can add value to what they're doing, right? And
Mhm.
then, you can build from there as well. So there are different ways of doing it. Feel free to reach out to me or send me a DM, and I can connect with you and we can have a conversation about that. That's a great question.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Roger. Thanks for the question. Thanks for the participation. So we have one more question. I think Miguel may have dropped off. We'll give him a minute to come back on. But I know Alfredo has a question, so we'll give Miguel a chance to come back on and answer that. There he is. There he is. Okay, cool. So Alfredo has a question. He's asking if we are added to multiple family trade lines, is there an added benefit or is only one needed?
Yeah, that's a great question. So something to know is obviously the more personal credit cards you have, the lower the age is going to get because with each added new card, that's just going to be the denominator is just going to make it the average age decrease. Sorry about that. I'm stumbling over my words. So it just depends how many credit cards and how much age you currently have. However, having multiple authorized users, again, as long as it passes this litmus test of, old age, 5 to 10 years plus, high credit, it doesn't have to have high credit limits. The main thing, if we're focusing on age, is that. But having a authorized user with a high credit limit where the balances are getting paid down or low utilization and doesn't have any negatives, that's only going to positively impact your guys' credit score. If you have like a bunch of credit cards and a 5 year authorized user, that might not be enough to get you to 2 years. So yes, it would be beneficial to potentially have multiple if that's the case for you guys.
So I want to add on to that for Alfredo. Great question there. So from personal experience, you can add multiple families on there. Again, like Miguel mentioned, you got to keep certain things in mind. One, you mentioned something in the presentation earlier, Miguel, that you know, you don't have to have that credit card, so you don't have to be a risk to that family member, right? That's one thing. So you can let them know that. Number two, two other important things is you want to have a good balance on there. You don't want it to be a card that they're using regularly or they have a high balance. You want to have it a high credit limit with very low or no usage. And then the age of the card is extremely important, right? What is it? Is it like 5 years is usually a good rule of thumb?
Yeah, I would say 5 years. Obviously, the older the better. Like if you get somebody with 20 years, then honestly, that's probably enough to, that's the only card that you'll need. But if you have like 10 personal credit cards and you're only getting added to one authorized user with 5 years credit limit or 5 years credit age, that probably won't be enough to bring all the average up to 2 years. So you just got to keep that in mind.
Perfect, perfect. Any other questions there? These are awesome questions so far.
Yeah, real quick too, something I forgot to mention in the presentation. Alex or just anyone here, have you guys ever heard of the story of the gold miner? Okay,
No?
cool.
Tell me.
So there's this like picture on Instagram, and I relate to this so much to just business credit and just business in general. So there's this gold miner, right? He buys a plot of land and he's mining gold. And the picture, he's literally like 5 feet away from hitting the pay dirt, all the gold. And then there's another picture below where the guy actually just kept going and he literally 5 feet away hits the gold and gets it. And the reason why I bring that up and how it relates to business is a lot of us, if we're just starting in business, right? Most of you guys probably use savings to get started, right? When you're starting a business, odds are you're not making 10, 20K, 30K in the first month or whatever. It's called a burn rate, right? The startup costs, you're getting everything set up. You're not making your sales immediately. However, through those months, even 6 months or even a year, however long it takes for you to hit that ROI, you're building the business and you're learning tons and tons of lessons to where once you hit pay dirt and are able to pay everything off and get back to neutral, then from there, everything's just an upside, right? And what happens to a lot of people is they use their savings, let's say they saved up 10K and they're 5 feet away from gold, but they have to stop because they ran out of money. And then now all those months or however long you went to go build that business and all the lessons you learned on the way are for naught because now you don't have any more money to go through. And now you're just like, crap, I'm back to where I started, nothing. So why I relate that is that's what business credit does is if you do run into those cash flow issues and you believe in your business and it's going to make money, this could literally be the thing that separates you from the 5 feet of gold if you have the right funding and access to capital to actually keep pushing forward. I've learned that in my business when I started doing Airbnb coaching and funding. The first months I wasn't making any money, but I just kept the faith in myself. And once I got that proof of concept, learned all those lessons, I literally took it from 0 to 150 like real quick. So yeah.
Luis has a question.
What's up, man?
What's going on? Thanks so much for doing this. So the question is, what if you have personal credit cards? Let's say you have 3 cards, but they have higher limits than 5,000, than 10,000 as a limit. Let's say one is unlimited, right? What does that do? Because that's really hard to nail down a utilization rate. I've heard mixed things on that. So what happens?
Yeah, definitely.
And what if you already have, and what if you already have a business credit card for an LLC that you have started this, not personal? So if you can kind of like answer both of those questions.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing with just personal credit, I didn't mention earlier, you also don't want to have too many personal credit cards because if you have like over 100K in personal credit, the banks are going to be like, okay, you already have 100 in personal. Why would you need more on the business? So that could actually negatively affect you. And then the question about personal credit, you asked, what if it's above the 5K? That's fine. Again, just as long as you're not maximizing over 100K between a bunch of cards, then you're good. Now, I believe what you're referring to is the cards that have like an unlimited amount. Those are called charge cards. So basically your spending limit is based off how much you spent last month and how much you paid off. So it'll keep increasing as long, like if you spend 10K 1 month, pay it off, the next month it might be like 20K, and they'll just keep letting you go up and up. But from a credit limit and utilization standpoint, since technically it's unlimited, the banks aren't going to weigh that in as much. Like they'll still see the credit card's age and on-time payments, which will make you still look good. But typically, when we're talking about showing the banks that you're a trustworthy borrower, they want to see credit cards that have a preset spending limit, because then they could associate that with the utilization and how well you are with paying that down.
Makes sense. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes.
Thank you for the
Thanks for the
question.
question. So we have two more questions in here. One from Gary. What if your oldest card has a lower limit like 5,000, but your latest cards have much higher limits like 10,000 to 30,000?
Then that's perfect. Again, yeah, on the presentation, I said at least 3 cards with 10K each. If the average is above, like average total credit limit is above that, then you're totally fine. I would even recommend with the card that is 5K, go ahead and call the number on the back of the card. Literally let them know, hey, I like, even if you're not going to use the credit limit, again, we're just using it to make us look like a trustworthy borrower, is you could call the number on the back of the card and request a credit limit increase. Just let them know, hey, my name's Miggle. I've got the Chase Sapphire Reserve. I have like this big trip that I want to spend it on this card specifically to get the points. Is there anything that you guys could do for us? And they'll be able to increase that credit depending on what your current credit score status is. They'll be able to increase it. And again, even if you don't plan on actually using it, it'll make you still look like a more trustworthy borrower, because the banks see you being lent out more within all your credit cards. But to answer your question, if your other cards do have a higher limit, then the 5K is fine. I would still go ahead and apply for the credit limit increase anyways, though.
Yeah, and keep it, the cool thing is you want to keep in mind, even if you have a low limit credit card, like a $500 limit, it's 20 years old, that's going to help with the age of your overall credit. And that's a big factor, as Miguel pointed out. So that's one thing. And the more you increase your card balance, as long as it's all about utilization ratio as well. So if you keep that ratio low, you have, high limit cards, and then they're older, that's going to truly help you out a lot. So
Yeah.
definitely call them up and get a credit increase. We have another question. Everton, is residential property necessarily better for a first time compared to commercial? I'll take that question. My personal opinion is yes. It's an easy yes for that. Obviously, there's no cookie cutter thing for everybody. Everybody's different. Everybody's risk tolerance is different. Everybody's strategy. But typically, when people get started, they do get started in residential, and then they transition to commercial. Can you get started in commercial right away? Yes. Should you? It depends, right? So, and it doesn't make residential not as good as commercial or vice versa. You just really have to get in tune with what is it that you're trying to do, what are your goals, and what's your risk tolerance. I'm personally more into residential. I do both, and the coaching clients that I work with, I cater to them. It's all a custom approach based on what their needs are and what their goals are. So if you want to connect more about that, I'd love to reach out to you. Send me your email, or we can connect offline and share a little bit more about that. But that's an awesome question, and I think you really need to be in tune with a lot of different things to determine what's best for you.
Yeah, and just to add to that too, because I had some coaching clients where I was coaching them on the funding side of things. They ended up actually working with Alex, like literally after I spoke at their event, and they've only had positive things to talk about Alex. Super responsive, and even before they started working with you, you were just giving them like a ton of free value. It was like almost to a point they were like, dude, let me like just pay for it, because it was like almost like unfair, you know what I mean? But Alex is the guy if you guys have those type of real estate questions, because like what have you done? You've done BRRRR, fix and flips. I think you've done like ADUs too, and like basically everything around the sun.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in every area it's different. Like right now, the ADU craze it's just going to keep on going, especially with a lot of new laws that passed in this month in 2025. So you always want to be in tune with what's going on in the area you want to invest in. Don't just go to out of state or, you know, to other states just because you hear other people going there or just because the bar of entry is lower. You really have to understand, you know, are you looking for cash flow? Are you looking for appreciation? You know, wealth building is all about, you know, appreciation. A lot of people don't like investing in California. You know, I'm completely, you know, for investing in California. I do invest out of state as well. There are specific states that I look at for specific reasons. But again, you know, do what you think is best for you based on the right reasons. So right now, ADUs is a big thing. There's a lot of different things that are going on now in LA, specifically with, you know, the Olympics, with the World Cup coming down the road. We have obviously a housing shortage, right? We have a homelessness problem. So you got to figure out what are the problems in a specific area and be a solution to that. So there are a lot of ADU laws that passed just this month. You want to be familiar with. If you want to learn more about that, you can connect with me. And then there's also, you know, a big thing happening with single room occupancy, right? Renting out by the room. That's something that's a great strategy to invest in. It's maybe not the best thing for everybody, but there are specific areas in LA that, you know, you can use that strategy and be very, very successful. So. All right, so we're pretty much there. If anybody has any final question, just drop it in there. Otherwise, you know, I do want to mention the recording of this webinar. We are gonna put it up on our YouTube channel, so please subscribe to our channel. Again, visit alexnahleonvideo.com. We put the link in the chat a couple times. Also, you know, we put the link for the QR code for our upcoming future events. We are gonna have Miggle come back again because, you know, the topic that he's talking about we feel is very, very beneficial. So you can check out the podcast episode we did with Miggle. He will be back. To be notified when he's going to be back, just, you know, sign up on our Eventbrite so we can notify you on that. And if you need to contact Miggle, you have your information there.
Yeah, so I would say the best thing for you guys is I do have a free Facebook community. If you look up Family Legacy Funding in the Facebook group section, we'll be the first ones to pop up. With this community, it's super awesome. Like, I actually took a lot of notes for how Alex is building his community. But basically, I do weekly live trainings once a week on Wednesdays. We'll talk about anything related to optimizing credit, getting business credit funding. So offering tons of free value there. We also will have, you know, Alex has been on there a couple times where we're teaching people like, hey, once we get you guys this funding, here's how we can invest it. Here are the different exit strategies. Alex is, you guys can watch the videos on there. He's had tons of people like hit him up and gotten tons of value from just learning, you know, okay, what's the next step after I get this funding? And that's all through the Family Legacy Funding Facebook group. If you guys want to get in contact with me, my number is 855-619-6173. I just realized the call to action when I was saying to comment this keyword. And then still go ahead, shoot me a text over at 855-619-6173. My email is info@motivemiggle. And if you guys just want to see how I am as a person and just like, I guess, my brand, I'm Motive Miggle at Instagram. And then again, the Facebook group is Family Legacy Funding. But thank you guys so much for lending me your guys' eyes, ears, and attention. I know coming in on a Thursday midday might be a little tough for some people. So thank you guys it's always nice being able to hear, like, actually have people like listen. I'll post these YouTube videos sometimes and I'll only get like 4 views, and 3 of them are from me, my girlfriend, and my mom. So it's nice to actually be in a room where people are actually care what I'm talking about, because this is something I nerd out about. So thank you guys.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you for jumping on. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll put the recording up there. Reach out to Miggle if you need anything. Always, you know, utilize the resources that we have in the community and learn from other people's successes and failures. So we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Peace out, guys. Have a productive day. Bye.